Good morning, my dear viewers, and thank you for tuning in to TV3 to watch the Today's Woman show brought to you by Lydia Female Contraceptives with Lydia. You decide. I've got another great show lined up for you, so I hope you're ready to roll with me the next hour. Now, before I introduce my guest and we talk about what we have in store for you, we're going to go for a short commercial break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Today's Woman show. I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors once more. Lydia Female Contraceptives with Lydia, you decide. Now, before we get started, I'd like to give you the quote for the day, and it's by Philip McGraw, and it says, "You are your own most important resource for making your life work. Life rewards action. Until your knowledge, awareness, insights, and understandings are translated into actions, they are of no value." And that's food for thought for you today. Now, let's watch this film to have a recap of why we're here today.
After my WASI, I had admission into the Kumasi Polytechnic to offer HND in Chemical Engineering. After 3 years in the school, I completed the course and came out, offered my national service at the Kumasi Metropolitan. After my national service, I looked for a job in Kumasi. I never acquired one. I came to Accra thinking I would get a better job here, but to no avail. I came into the market looking for a temporary work to be able to sustain myself and my daughter, and I bought a bowl and started kaya. I started carrying kaya. It's almost a year now.
You've heard the story of Nafu Cynthia, the HND holder turned Kayayo. It gives you an idea of the proportion of graduate unemployment in this country. Sadly, successive census since 1960 hasn't clearly stated how widespread unemployment is. But if you take into account the setting up of 2 associations of unemployed graduates, you will get a better picture. Since independence, Ghana has done poorly with job creation. A country heavily dependent on imports and a massive demand for US dollars has seen a steep depreciation of the cedi and worsened already high costs of living. In May, a circular hinted that CEOs have stopped employing, a situation that has added to the already high numbers of frustrated, unemployed graduates.
After completing School of Aviation, I was in the house for 1 year, 8 months. It wasn't an easy.
After I lost my first job, it was really very difficult. It took me quite, I think almost 2 years before I got a job again. And also it has to be through whom you know.
Before I completed, I learned it was so difficult finding a job, and indeed, considering the economy, it's very hard because sometimes you have to follow on referral. People will have to connect you to other before you can get a job. And
searching for a job, it's quite interesting, especially when you are a woman, a lady, because anybody who wants to give you a job wants to get something from you, because mostly the bosses are the male. Okay, and if you are not the type who wants to give in, then it means you're going to lose that opportunity, damning the fact that you have the skill and everything that it takes to get that particular job.
I applied for a lot of jobs. Actually, I had to go for interviews, and most of the interviews that I went to I could tell that I did really very good, but you realize that in the end you call back to find out how it went, and they tell you that they picked someone else, and sometimes it just did not make sense.
So for the job search, it's very difficult considering the economy and considering the fact that you can only get jobs that can fetch you something to get going, but those that you feel so much fulfilled, it tends to be difficult.
But in life, there is a golden rule to everything, and job seeking is no different. So, How have unemployed graduates packaged themselves in terms of the job hunt?
I'm currently not working, but I'm job hunting and then doing my own businesses as well.
My experience is what puts me ahead of others. I have learned to take up opportunities in some organizations that people wouldn't want to do it for, like voluntary, you understand?
When I was in school, I used to attend seminars, those that had to do with job search, the challenges it had to. So as much as I could gather, the information I could gather, I realized that I don't need to sit back, whilst even before I complete myself, I need to do something about it. So I decided to check the media, the online. Sometimes I check the publications in the news, daily graphic, others, the internet, to be able to see what jobs are available.
I applied to many places. This one, that's where I'm working now. I didn't apply there. It was just a phone call that I got. The colleague that I'm working with worked with me. I worked with her in a different company. So she moved to where we are working now, and she contacted me to the person.
It's about you marketing yourself well, because if you are just at home, you wouldn't be able to find yourself anything. So if you brand yourself such that people are willing to take you on, then that is the idea.
It's tough in today's climate to get a job, especially as many graduates clamor for the few available. This morning, we help you, especially the young women out there, to put your qualification to good use.
Well, like the short film says, this morning we're here with two very abled ladies to share their thoughts and advice on how you can best position yourself, put your foot forward to make sure that you don't become the next Cynthia Nafu. Now, to join into this conversation, if you want to send us a comment, please do so onto our Facebook page, and it's Today's Woman on TV3, or you can follow us simply by going onto our Twitter page, which is hashtag Today's Woman on TV3. Now, to my immediate left, I have Edem Adzaho. She's the founder of Spec Consult. She's passionate about professional studies, youth development, customer service, and of course she has coached and mentored over 5,000 graduates from across the country. You're welcome to the show, Edem.
Thank you, Edem.
And then there is Dzigbordi Dosooo, who is herself a talk show hostess.
Yes.
She's CEO and founder of Allure Africa Group.
That's right.
She is, and then she's also an image consultant.
Yeah.
I like to call her an image guru. You're both welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, is that a unique case, what happened to this young lady? Do you think it's unique, or it's happening all over the place?
For Ghana, it's a bit unique, especially for the kind of trade she's doing, going back to be a kayayo. However, all over the world, it's not unique because, especially in Spain, there are people who have got master's degrees and they've gone back to be kitchen porters and all the rest of it. So it's not a unique situation globally. Yeah.
But for you, how difficult was it for you to get into your first job, or did you go into being self-employed immediately after college?
Actually not. It wasn't very difficult for me to get my first job because I put in a lot of work. I started going on voluntary internships. I work with other organizations. So I built a track record. So it was easier for me to find a job. But it wasn't, I had to compete for the job, let's just say, but I had worked on myself to get there. It wasn't just throwing my qualifications to employers and I was high. No, I had to compete for the job. But I got the job because I had to work on myself. I developed my confidence, not only just going for seminars, but I actually practiced the things that I learned from the seminars. So I got my foot in the door by adding value to myself.
But what I can see, you're nodding your head. Indeed. Was it the same for you? Did you have to work that extra hard to get your first job after your degree?
Yes, I think it's fundamentally the preparation in every way. I look at it both ways, and interestingly enough, Edem had said, she thought Cynthia Nafu was unique. I'm beginning day by day to see people like Cynthia. Because I do lifestyle coaching, because I see a lot of young people who are now not just looking at the traditional workplace. They are now saying, okay, I'm graduated, what can I do? And then they would think creatively and rather go and do something to earn them money. And I'm finding a lot of young ladies who are being brave enough to hit the marketplace, okay, to go and carry something for someone or to go and help somebody rather than sit at home or wait for a man to give them money. There's been too much credit given to the fact that women depend on men for money. It does happen, but now you find that segment of young ladies who are looking for that level of independence any way how, except from finding it from a man or using their body or using other means to get money. You're finding that segment. So you're finding that Cynthia Nafus, they may not be talking as she is. They may not be amplifying their voice, but trust me, there are a lot of young girls who are suffering and doing things like she's doing to survive.
Why? Is it because there are not enough jobs? Are we facing these problems because there are not enough jobs?
Two things. There are not enough jobs, but however, the very few jobs that are there, people have not adequately prepared for those jobs. There are occasions where I have to recruit for clients, and sometimes I kind of feel vacancies because people are not that good. You know, and of course, I mean, if you go to a typical university lecture hall, I'm sure the average numbers are 200, 300, and there are people who have graduated before them, and they are competing for those jobs. So there might be limited jobs, but also, are they ready? Are they prepared? Have they put in that work? And for someone like Cynthia, I'm so impressed, you know, that she's taking the initiative, and it's something that employs.
She has determination. She's
an
asset to anybody.
I love her for it. I love what she's done. I'm so inspired by her, but by some of the other young ladies who are doing. I mean, there are people who are doing all sorts of things, carrying things on their head, selling in town. You know, in Osu, you know, they carry it like somebody's carrying tomatoes on their head, selling oranges. They do things that is not, you know, normal for the graduates, the recent HND graduate, the recent tertiary graduate, should I say. But it's inspirational. She's using the right methods. It's just that to get back in the workforce, she has to do a lot more on the other side. It depends on where she wants to go.
Okay. Now, when you say to get back into the workforce, she has to do a lot more on the other side. What do you mean? What exactly do you mean?
Adding value to yourself. I mean, and for example, with someone like Cynthia, I normally would like to talk about these young tertiary graduates who have come out. One of the ladies said she did voluntary work, and she worked in places that people would not usually work. I wish she had elaborated, but my first point that I want to make is I looked at all the ladies that spoke. None of them had the right image for a job. So I have to talk about that
because first appearance,
it's either
impressions,
they were not prepared. Even for me, if I'm looking at them and I was any CEO, because I am a CEO and I interact with a lot of CEOs, and I'm talking about both white collar and blue collar. It's either the person didn't speak well or the person didn't look well. So it's either appearance, behavior, or communication. But out of all the three, which is the ABC of image, I would say each of them had work to do. So on looking at the screen, every contributor who was saying, I can't get a job, and there are jobs out there and it's difficult, they were sharing with TV3 what the issues are. But as I looked at them, I kept saying to myself, you need this, you need this. So I was seeing all the holes. So that's the first thing. There was none of them that came that I would say today I would take in my organization.
Wow.
None of the people that contribute. So what I would say is that I will take them after I prepare them.
Of course.
If I would hire them, I would hire them because I would hire attitude. Or I would hire something they have and then groom it. And fundamental language, I'm talking about grammar, basic grammar. I mean, whether it's writing, whether it's reading, whether it's speaking, all of them have flaws. And I ask myself, is this a graduate? Every day, whether it's tertiary or university. I mean, some of them come to me with master's degrees. So it's not about what they are doing in the classroom at all. Right now, that becomes like a base. But when you actually get in the workplace, translating that in what you do So that's the fundamental
issue. It's not about coming out with a degree. That's not it
at all.
Because that's what everybody thinks.
At all.
I finished school. I've come out with a degree, so I must be
and
employable.
They go for 4 years. They go for 3 years. And Edem will bear me witness. And they come out, and you have to actually do intensive development to make up for the 4 years that they've gone. So you wonder that what have they done? But I always say that when you talk about voluntary internships, how many of them would like to go and work for a fashion designer who is an individual and is running and wearing many hats,
just to be able to get a bit of the experience?
How many of them would like to go and work in the blue collar sectors where you are talking about vocations, caterers? You know, they prefer the banks. It has to be a manufacturing company. If it's not a bank, it's a and I'm not saying don't go into those institutions,
financial institutions.
But the thing about it is that sometimes before you even get to the financial institution, your competitive edge is to have had experience, a year's experience being an administrative officer. What did you do? You've worked for an entrepreneur. Trust me, you would have a certain skill that the bank, the manufacturing company, any service organization or product organization would require, any SME, any large corporate. So sometimes it takes the little things to get the big things.
So what do you think is the root cause of all of this? Is it our educational system? It's failing us in the sense that everything is skewed towards you getting that degree, but nothing actually prepares you for the actual life.
Well, I think that we are blaming the universities too much. I mean, they have a job to do. They can teach concepts and philosophies and all the rest of it. But I always say we are living in a very exciting times. The internet is there. You can pretty much Google anything. You can Google how to prepare for interviews, anything you want to know about interviews or getting a job, and the information is right there for you to consume and add value to yourself. But they just cannot be bothered, and I think that we have to stop blaming the universities. People have to put their destinies into their own hands. Yes, well, they yeah, seriously. I mean, they teach you the subject.
Actually, that's what I'm laughing.
They teach you the subject,
and then you make the most out of it.
You get the grades, but then you have to start thinking, well, so when I graduate, what is expected of me? I want to go into banking. What happens in banking?
A lot of the children or people who are coming out of universities don't even know what they want to do. You know, everybody's looking at the white collar person as being, that's the ultimate. That's everybody. That's my model. That's my role model. That's where I want to go to.
That's my picture.
You know, but people are there who have other talents.
Exactly.
You understand? Other skills which can actually be used. And I mean, I read a bit in your CV yourself when you said that, I think it was in your second year that you realized that there was something amiss in the fact that, now what exactly was it, if you'd like to share with us?
So, well, in my second year, I was sitting at a lecture hall and I had a lecturer. Well, for once, I saw her, she was like 25 and she was a doctor, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. But then she asked us if we knew how to write CVs, and we thought, oh my God, we don't. We're just trying to get qualifications and get out of here. So for me, it just sparked something in my brain that, okay, well, I'm going to graduate and I need to present something called a CV. So she actually volunteered her time to teach us how to talk us through it one evening. And yeah, so I did that, and then I took it further. I was like, okay, so CVs, then what? So I started thinking, and I think that we need to start thinking. I started thinking, well, I have a CV. Does that mean I can get a job? Because I had a friend who took an internship letter to a hotel, and they said, well, we don't do tourism here. And I studied tourism for my first degree.
You just tourism for first degree.
First degree. And I thought, oh my goodness, I mean, if he goes to a tourism establishment and you're telling him we don't do tourism here because that place, well, the management had hired a relative, so obviously they don't know anything about tourism. What future lies for us? So I started thinking of how, well, I didn't even know anything about consultancy at the time, but I can have an agency where not only do you get to write better CVs, but also you go and undertake an internship in an industry that you want to go into. So if it's law, I mean, we all dreamt about being lawyers and doctors. Well, you might as well.
That's the white collar thing again.
Yes. And which is where, I love that because you thought about that. Do you know there are a lot of young people every day that I interact with them every single day. And Audrey, Edem, they are looking to find a vocation. Yes. Because they are talented in the area of making things with their hands.
I have a
creative things.
Yeah.
So right now, what I spend time doing is to look for those other people. That's why I was saying a lot of times you find a young man who probably has an interest in putting cars together. Why don't you go and work for a mechanic? Why do you have to go and work for a bank?
Because it's not glamorous.
Because no, it is the way we are skewed. So I am saying is that follow your passion. I mean, I get so passionate about it because I've seen it work for me.
I can see the passion in your...
I've seen it work for me because I came postgraduate, worked in financial services. Look at how long it took me to
be able to find out what your passion is.
My passion is, and this is where my calling was supposed to be. I found that 17 years ago. Why I could have found that 30 years ago.